Hi everyone, and welcome back to VR Pre-Algebra. Miss Jeffries here, and we are going to do a little review over volume of cylinders, cones, and spheres. And we're going to make sense of all of them and relate them back to each other. So the base of a circle, to find that area, it would be pi r squared. And how do we make that 2D area of a circle into 3D? We multiply by the height of the cylinder. And so our equation for cylinders is pi r squared times height. So step one would always be to find the radius. If you're given diameter that goes all the way across the circle, you divide that number by 2. Next, we square the radius. So if it was 6, we would say 6 times 6 is 36, and then move on to multiplying by height and by pi. Please use 3.14 as we have been doing. So next you're going to round and label, and I usually ask you to round to the nearest tenth, which is 1 digit after the decimal, or to the hundredths place, which is 2 digits after the decimal. So over there we have the cylinder that we're going to work on here today. So the height of that cylinder is 12 and the diameter is 5. So again, when following our steps, we are first going to find radius. So if your diameter is 5, what is your radius? 2.5. So let's plug that in. Volume equals pi times 2.5 squared times our height, which is 12. All right, so take out your calculator, your phone, the calculator on your laptop, and let's plug this in. Squared means 2.5 times 2.5 times 12 times 3.14. And you should get 235.5 cubic units. Again, 235.5 cubic units. So that would be our volume of a cylinder. Let's take it to another area to find volume of cones. All right, guys, and welcome to our webinar. Love this space. So we're going to talk about the volume of a cone. And so first, let's talk about the equation and how we came up with it. Let's relate it back to cylinders. In our experiment, we showed 3 cones filled a cylinder with the same radius and same height. So we know that a cone is 1/3 the volume of a cylinder. And that equation became volume equals 1/3 pi r squared times height for cones. And instead of multiplying by 1/3, we know we can also divide by 3. So now let's go over our steps again for volume of cones. For our steps of volume of a cone, the only thing that changes is step 4. We're going to divide by 3, and then you continue to round and label as usual. So now let's do an example of volume of a cone. So here we have an example where the radius is 5 centimeters and the height is 10. So we take that radius of 5 and we square it. 5 times 5 is 25. And then we're going to multiply by 10 and by 3.14. And lastly, divide by 3. What do you get? You should get 261.66. And when we round to the nearest tenth, you get 261.7 cubic centimeters. All right, now we're on to volume of spheres into our next environment. Hello everybody, and welcome to our keynote environment. So this is another pro environment. So we want to talk about the volume of spheres. So we compared this back to the volume of cones, again filling up that cone and seeing how it relates to the sphere. We found that 2 cones filled up the sphere. So if you multiply 1/3 times pi r squared times height, the equation for cones, times 2, we ended up finding the equation for spheres. And that equation for spheres is volume equals 4/3 times pi r cubed. So for spheres, you just have to find the radius and then you can move forward with your steps. So same steps, except you are going to cube the radius. Make sure that you multiply that number times itself 3 times. And then not only are you still dividing by 3, but now we have to multiply by 4 because that's the numerator of your fraction. So let's do an example. Here is a sphere where the radius is 6. So we're going to cube that radius. So in your calculator, please type in 6 times 6 times 6. All right, and you should get 216. Now we are going to multiply by pi, which is 3.14, and then multiply by 4. Remember, it doesn't matter the order that you do those two. You can mix that up. Same with division, right? We can mix all of these up. Just get used to the pattern that you do. All right, next, divide by 3. And here we are going to round to the nearest tenth. All right, guys, you should get 904.32. That 2 is less than 5, so the 3 is going to stay the same. Your answer should be 904.3 cubic centimeters. All right, guys, and that's all for us. Here today, we just wanted to do a quick review over volume so that you could get ready for your test tomorrow. So great job on the volume unit. Thank you guys so much for your hard work. And be sure to study for your test on the volume of cylinders, cones, and spheres.